I grew up in the bustling city of Chicago, Illinois, a place where the winters were harsh, the summers were lively, and the streets always seemed to buzz with energy. My name is Emily Carter, and I never imagined that one chapter of my life would change me so much, all because of someone I least expected. At the age of 27, I was living a fairly ordinary life. I had a decent job at a publishing house, a small but cozy apartment near Lincoln Park, and a tight circle of friends who were always ready to push me out of my comfort zone. They constantly encouraged me to date, but to be honest, dating had started to feel exhausting. The apps, the awkward first conversations, and the lack of genuine connection all left me drained. One summer, while attending a friend's charity event in New York City, I met someone who challenged every assumption I had about love, age, and connection. His name was Daniel Hayes, and he was in his mid-40s. At first glance I thought, he's way too old for me. But life has a way of proving us wrong when we least expect it. The event was hosted on a rooftop overlooking the skyline. The air smelled of fresh flowers and catered food, while laughter and music floated across the night. I was standing awkwardly near the buffet table, holding a glass of sparkling water, when Daniel approached. He had a calm confidence about him that stood out from the crowd. His gray-flecked hair and warm smile made him seem approachable yet distinguished. "Not a fan of these kinds of events either?" he asked with a knowing smile. I laughed, relieved that someone had broken the ice. "Is it that obvious?" "Completely," he chuckled. "I'm Daniel." From that moment, conversation flowed more easily than I could have imagined. He told me he was from Boston, Massachusetts, where he worked as an architect. He was in town for the charity event because he had designed the new community center they were raising funds for. His passion for his work, his thoughtful way of listening, and his gentle humor struck me. Still, the thought lingered. He was nearly 20 years older than me. I couldn't ignore that difference. But something about Daniel was different from anyone I had met before. He wasn't trying to impress me with flashy stories or shallow compliments. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in my thoughts, my career, and my perspective on life. That night, as the event wound down, he asked if I'd like to take a walk around the city. Against my usual cautious nature, I agreed. We strolled through the glowing streets of New York, talking about everything from childhood memories to our dreams for the future. I remember feeling oddly safe with him, as though he carried a calmness that steadied my restless energy. Over the following weeks, Daniel and I began keeping in touch. At first, it was casual, sharing articles, sending each other photos of places we'd been, or recommending books. But slowly it became more. He called when he was back in Boston, and we started meeting up halfway in cities like Philadelphia when our schedules aligned. Each time, I felt the connection deepen, and each time the little voice in my head whispered, "But he's too old for you." I confided in my best friend, Rachel, one afternoon while we were sitting in a coffee shop in Chicago. "Emily," she said, sipping her latte, "age doesn't define compatibility. You have to look at how he treats you, how you feel when you're with him. That's what matters." Her words stayed with me. And the truth was, with Daniel, I felt more respected and understood than I ever had with men closer to my age. Daniel never rushed me. He never made me feel like I had to be someone I wasn't. He encouraged my career and often reminded me of my worth when I doubted myself. He wasn't just older. He was wiser, steadier, and more intentional in the way he lived his life. One weekend, Daniel invited me to visit him in Boston. Nervously, I agreed. When I arrived, he took me to see the harbor, where the breeze carried the scent of the sea and the sky stretched endlessly above us. We walked along the cobblestone streets, stopping at small local shops and cafes. I began to see his world, the place he called home, the friends who greeted him warmly, the projects he had poured his heart into. That trip marked a turning point for me. As we sat one evening at a quiet restaurant overlooking the water, he looked at me thoughtfully and said, "Emily, I know I'm older. I know there are things about me that might make you second-guess this. But I want you to know, I've never met anyone who makes me feel the way you do." My heart raced, and for once, I didn't let my doubts answer for me. "Daniel," I said softly, "I feel the same way." From that moment, we stopped dancing around our feelings. We began to explore our relationship openly, even though I still braced myself for judgment from others. Some of my colleagues raised their eyebrows when I mentioned him, and even a few family members questioned the age difference. But as time went on, people could see the happiness in my eyes, and the way Daniel treated me spoke louder than any doubts. Our relationship was far from a whirlwind romance. It was slow, steady, and deeply rooted in respect. We built it brick by brick, just like one of his architectural projects. He showed me that love doesn't have to be about fireworks every day. Sometimes, it's about the quiet comfort of knowing you're with someone who has your back. Months later, Daniel surprised me by inviting me back to New York, the city where we first met. This time, he took me to that same rooftop where our story began. The skyline glittered behind him as he turned to me, his eyes full of sincerity. "Emily," he said, "I never imagined meeting someone like you would change my life at this stage. You've shown me that love isn't about time. It's about connection. I want to spend my days building that connection with you." I felt tears sting my eyes as I realized how far we'd come from that first hesitant conversation near the buffet table. I thought he was too old for me. I thought society's judgment would weigh us down. But in the end, Daniel proved me wrong. He proved that love doesn't follow a rulebook, and that the right person will meet you where you are, no matter what numbers stand between you. Looking back now, I realize that the very thing I thought would separate us, his age, was the thing that made our love so strong. His patience, his wisdom, and his steady heart were exactly what I needed in my life. And so, our story continues, not as a tale of doubt, but as a reminder that love often surprises us when we least expect it.